I got my stuff together. It's time to start some seeds. So we're gonna do some seed starting today. This is not all of it by any stretch of the imagination, but as of right now, everybody should be starting a seed. And we're gonna get into that here in just a second. So this is what I was waiting on. This is, well, you can read, so there it is. I get this at a local store. I do not have it on my Amazon list below because it is not cost effective for you to purchase it that way. But I usually go through about 50 pounds of seed starting stuff a year to make my own. And it worked out fine, but you know what, for simplicity's sake and because we start so many seeds, I needed to just kind of pare it down and make it easy. And I really like this stuff. So yeah, it's so easy. You know, you pay for convenience, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not really that much more because it saves me time, and it's really good stuff. That mycorrhizae in it really does do the trick, and it's the right fluffiness and all that stuff. I used to do like peat moss and topsoil sifted and all that stuff, and I mean, it worked just fine, but it just kind of, it was too time consuming. What's on the list for today? We've got Paris romaine lettuce, Vivian lettuce, Natamorska rutabagas, and then we are going to do our Napa cabbage today, and all of these will get started. So it's we can't put it off. It's got to be done. It's time. And I would venture to say across the board, no matter where you are in the United States of America, there is a seed that you should be starting right now. I know it seems crazy, and I know you guys are thinking, man, it's still 10 feet of snow on the ground, and we got another cold front coming through, and it's blasting and all that stuff, but trust me, if you think about it and you do the math, time is nigh. I'll bless you and not make you look at my my face while I do this too much. So let's talk about the math equation. So I know there's a lot of new people here, and one of the things is on this channel, I am very big, and not just this channel, in my life and on my homestead, I'm very big into the timing of growing vegetables. And I think once you start to get that timing under control, you will actually get a lot more production, and you'll be able to essentially double the space out of your garden. The reason why you're double, I mean, look, this isn't some fancy magic trick that I'm going to teach you or enlighten you to by any stretch of the imagination, but doubling your space, your harvest out of your garden, is simply just rotating your plants in and out through the seasons. So we're not focusing on, you know, getting everything out at once. We're following the natural progression that nature has given us in the way these plants like to grow. And truthfully, we've been duped by the seed industry. I mean, you look at those little graphics on the back of some of the seed packets, you know, you're misled, and then you go to the stores and you see when the seedlings are out to buy and stuff like that, and it's not accurate. And what it does is it tells you like, hey, I need to plant this now. Oh no. And what the problem is us as humans are like, hey, it's getting warm, it's time to do something, but that's not really the case. Turn the water on, and this is kind of a, I'm on a little bit of a time crunch today, so I'm gonna take you with me. Not that you needed to know that, but so as you watch what I'm doing and you start seeds, now you have to remember, I'm in coastal North Carolina, and it is a hot and balmy 42 degrees today. So, you know, our winters are different than a lot of places, and we do get warmer faster, and I'm very aware of that. You know, on the Backyard Gardens podcast, we talk a lot. My co-host about got killed by the clothesline. Batavia from Be Better Garden, she is in Chicago, and I grew in New England for probably about 10 years. I grew up there, so I'm very aware of the different climates and how cold it can be and all that stuff. Yeah, it's a small hike to get my water turned on. But when you take that into account and you start planting appropriately, and you think about it, let's say that you only plant seedlings from the store, and you go to the store, I'm not gonna get caught by the clothesline again, and you go in there and you're like, hey, it's starting to get warm, I'm gonna go plant, cool, you go shopping, Like, cool, I'm gonna get this tomato plant, I'm gonna get this lettuce plant, I'm gonna get these peppers, I'm gonna get this cabbage, this broccoli. Well, the problem is you've just, like 50% of what you just bought shouldn't be planted right now. 50% of what you just bought should be harvested right now. And that's something to really think about. So remember, as you go through this, think about the plants, how they grow, when they're on sale at the grocery store, because that's when they're in season, and then kind of go from there. And also feel free to watch me and see what I'm growing and what I'm starting and when, because this is exactly how I do it. So if you look at my garden, basically going to replicate all of this to an extent, but at a higher level. If you ever do decide to do the seed starting method I do, pre-damp, or any kind of seed starting really, pre-damping your soil is absolutely crucial. And the reason why is because if you have to like totally wet your soil when your seed's in it, you're just going to bury it even deeper, and then you're going to have issues with the seeds not coming up and being too deep, and then you got to dig them out and all that stuff, which is possible, and I'm sure you're going to see me do that at some point. But for right now, you just want to make sure that you can minimize that as much as possible. And the rest of my method will help. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, you already know my method. Y'all know how it is. I got to show everybody because there's always new people coming, and I'm grateful for all y'all coming, so thank you. I don't bury my seeds. I almost forgot to show you this. I just put little dimples in, and you'll see as the process unfolds what I'm talking about. But you can, I don't know if you can tell or not, but there's very little dimples, probably about that deep, for each one of these cells. And these are, I believe, 50 or 60 cell trays. I mean, if you want to take a second, you should have been able to count and do the math. You know, we all remember that from 4th grade. Speaking of math, I know I forgot to continue on that path, but math is something that we need to do. So if we start our seeds now, count ahead 8 weeks. And that will tell you when those seeds should be ready to go out. So today is January 3rd. And I spilt, these are Vivian lettuce, I really like this, and I spilt them, so I have very few left. That's why I hate those paper plastics. That's why we sell them in the Ziploc baggies, which we'll see in a minute. But anyways, so if you think about it, that puts us at planting these out roughly March 3rd, which is cutting it real close, truth be told, for the weather. So it doesn't really work out great right now. We should have honestly probably started this a little bit earlier, but I am going to speed the germination up and try to manipulate it as much as possible, which is something you can very well do. Even if you start these inside, and I know you guys, if you're new, you've seen the greenhouse. I don't really start a lot of seeds in my greenhouse. I do most of it inside because it's a controlled environment. And let's say some of these, basically everything I'm planting today, and I'm not completely sure about the Napa cabbage that I'm planting. That could be the one rogue plant. But what I'll say is 6 weeks, honestly, you should be right at getting ready to put them outside. So you have 6 weeks from the time of starting to, and then you factor in roughly about a week of hardening off to some extent. And that can be tricky this time of year. But as you get closer, you know, the weather is going to start warming up in 6 weeks to an extent here. Now, let's say you're where you are. Look, I have so few seeds. I ain't worried about it. I'm tired of saving seeds like that. I'm done with all these little minuscule packets laying around. But if you you can put them under some kind of cover or something like that, a little bit of heat. You can do the the dancing at first. You don't want to leave it outside for a long time, like especially at night. You want to bring it in every night and just make sure you're putting them and getting them in the warmer parts of the day and stuff like that, because you're acclimating them not only to the sun but also the weather. So you got to take that into account. But if this was your first seed, so let's say you live in Montana. I just did a seed starting schedule for somebody in Montana. Thank you, by the way, for purchasing a seed starting schedule. Email me below. If you want, and you're in Montana, it's pretty cold up there. Right now you probably could be starting onions at minimum. You could be starting probably, I would say, roughly broccoli and cabbage. So, those are like your first ones you want to start. And then you can go from there and put, you know, and then just start working your way down the list of what you want to grow. So don't let it fool you and stop you from growing certain things and thinking, hey, I need to wait, because this cold weather is exactly the time to be doing it. I mean, what else are we going to do? And that's why gardening is not really, it's a hobby, but it's also a lifestyle, because I mean, this is a year-round endeavor almost. You know, you get a certain amount of time where you're not doing it, but then after that, you're good to go. You know, you only take like a month, 2, maybe 3 months off, and then you're starting seeds again. And those 3 months are in the coldest of cold places. All right, so we're all seeded up here. I've got a bunch of little gem, Vivian lettuce, Natamoriska, which I put nard on there, spelled it wrong, but whatever. Nope, I didn't. Natamoriska rutabagas, and then 2 rows of Napa cabbage. And then what I'll do is I'll remove these leaves, and then I top it with perlite. So super simple. Just put it on there and top it with perlite. And please don't comment about perlite yet until the next thing when I turn the camera around. I can't do but one or two things at once. Sorry, everybody. But this, because it's so light, will help the seeds stay moist, but also give them the ability to easily push out. So that's why we're not burying our seeds at all. They're just laying in those little divots that we created. And then once we plant, this will go into the garden and help add some drainage and stuff like that, some aeration. So you don't want to put too much. I've been guilty of putting too much in the past. And I mean, it's not the end of the world because it's easily shifted around, unlike soil, but it works really well. And on the subject of vermiculite, it holds a lot of water. This holds a little bit of water, which is what we want. So we're going to give it a really good dousing, soak it good, let it go, and then we won't have to water them for about a week until they start to germinate, and then we'll water them again, and then it'll be probably another week or so, and then we'll start watering more and more. But this method has worked really good for me for a long time. A lot of people that have switched to it have really enjoyed it. I learned this from an old farmer locally, and I've just adopted it. It's made my seed starting so much faster, so much easier, and not to mention, this bag of vermiculite, which you can see how big it is, was 20 bucks. And so that'll probably last me 8 years, I would imagine, at the rate I'm going through it. That's my method of seed starting. It is no specific method, that's just what I use. I've done a lot of things in the past, and this seems to work out the best for me. But if you're in your area and you think it's too cold now, do the math, look at your climate, see when the weather starts to change, see when the days and the nights start to get a little bit warmer. And when I say a little bit warmer, we're talking, you know, during the day above freezing to an extent, and if you want to add covers, then it goes even earlier. But then at night, you can still be below freezing. You don't want to be in the single digits or anything, but definitely, and this is how you learn, just start trying it out and testing it and seeing what happens and what changes and all that stuff. And you'll be surprised on what can happen. So if you're seed starting, what are you starting? What is the first seed you're starting? What are you getting ready to plant? Let us know in the comments below, because it not only does it help me to kind of judge where everybody is, but also somebody in your area who doesn't feel comfortable commenting can read it and see like, hey, maybe I should do the same thing. And that's how we all learn together.